31 years old when he died in the Battle of Saint-Lô. I do not know the Daniel family. They no longer live in this area, and I have been unable to contact any surviving member of the family. So what I'm going to share with you is information that I've taken from newspaper accounts and military records, but I think it gives us a glimpse into the life of Luther Daniel. Luther was born in Rock Island, Texas in 1913. His parents were Wiley Eugene Daniel and Laura Daniel. He had 2 sisters and a brother, and Luther was the eldest in the family. His father worked in the railroad business for many years, and then he became a printer, and printing became his life's profession. When Luther was 5 years old, the family moved to St. Louis. 9 years later, Wiley and Laura purchased a farm 4 miles north of Wright City on what was then called the Troy to Wright City Road. We know it today as Highway J. Now, the Daniel farm was just across the county line into Lincoln County, so right past where Highway WW and J intersect. Luther was 14 years old when the family moved there. He attended school in Wright City, but for whatever reason, he didn't graduate. His 2 sisters and his brother are graduates of Wright City High School. As a young man, Luther is engaged in farming. We know that he had dairy cows and hogs, or one right before he enlisted in the Army, he ran for sale ads in the Warrenton Banner, offering for sale his dairy herd and his hogs. He was also a Mason. He was a member of the Pauldeville Masonic Lodge here in Wright City. Luther was not quite 28 years old when he joined the Army. It was March 1941. Those of you who know your World War II history and dates know that that is before the United States declares war and enters World War II. It's not until December of 1941, after Pearl Harbor, that the United States enters World War II. So Luther joins up. He's sent to Camp Robinson in Arkansas, and from there he is stationed in California. He's there for a couple of years, and it's there that he is promoted to the rank of Staff Sergeant. So I think that that would indicate that Luther had some leadership abilities. We know that he came home on furlough at least one time. There are reports in the Warrenton Banner from November of 1941 that Luther is here and he's visiting his friends and his family. However, after that, there are no other indications that he's ever home again. So that well may have been the last time Luther saw his family. From California, he's transferred to Fort Howze in Texas, and then on to Fort Meade in Maryland. And it is from Fort Meade in Maryland that Luther will depart for England on May 1st, 1944. 3 months later, he will die in Northwest France. You remember your World War II dates again, 1944, June, D-Day, and the Allies land on the beaches of Normandy. I've been unable to find anything that indicates that Luther's division was involved in that initial landing on Omaha Beach, but if it wasn't at that particular first day, Luther's division had to arrive shortly thereafter. So he has seen some intense fighting. When the Allies successfully invade Normandy, they then seek to retake some of the towns in France that the Germans have been occupying. And one of them is the town of Saint-Lô. The Germans had taken that town over in 1940. So Luther's division is located in the south of France, and they are tasked with going to Saint-Lô in the northwest of France. The Battle of Saint-Lô lasts 12 days, from July 7th through the 19th, and it's often called the Battle of the Hedgerows. The Allies intensely bombed Saint-Lô. In fact, 95% of the city is left in ruins, and it's often called the capital of ruins. Luther is seriously wounded on the second to last day of that battle on July 18th. He's taken to a military hospital for treatment. Don't know the extent of his wounds, but apparently they were very serious, or he dies in that hospital 12 days later on July 30th. He was buried in a cemetery there in Normandy, France, along with 3,000 other Allied servicemen who died in the Battle of Saint-Lô. Now back here in Wright City, Wiley and Laura are out on the farm. Their other son, Frank, is serving in the United States Navy, and he's stationed somewhere in the Pacific Theater. Wiley and Laura do not learn of Luther's wounding until a month and a half later. On August 30th, they received a telegram telling them that Luther had been seriously wounded. On September 3rd, the military notifies them that Luther has died. More than 2 years after the close of and end of World War II, Luther's body is returned to the United States at the request of his parents. His remains arrive in the port of New York on April 2nd, 1948, aboard the U.S. Army transport John McCarley. The ship carried the bodies of 2,619 Americans who were being returned to the United States from cemeteries in Normandy. From New York, his body is taken to Kansas City, and from there, a military escort brings it here to Wright City. Luther's funeral is held right here in this sanctuary on April 22nd, with Reverend Catterjohn officiating. He was then laid to rest in Block 5 with full military honors. Those of you who are not familiar with our cemetery, when you enter it and you go down the main drive and the road's T, you go to the right and circle around, you'll be circling around Block 5. Luther's gravesite is at the far end of Block 5 along the tree line. It's between the road and the fence line. A year before Luther's body is returned here, Wiley and Laura sell their farm north of town. They move back to Texas. One of their daughters is now living in the Houston area. They remain there until their deaths, but when Wiley and Laura die, they are brought here back to Wright City to rest by Luther. Just as a side note, some of you old-timers who graduated from Wright City may remember a scholarship that was given to a graduating senior, the Wiley Eugene Daniel Scholarship, named after Luther's father, Wiley Eugene Daniel, and given by the Daniel family. And I think that it says a lot about how the Daniel family felt about Wright City. They lived here 20 years, yet they chose to have their son buried here, and Wiley and Laura were buried here, and then they set up this scholarship for graduating seniors. The scholarship's no longer given, but They truly must have considered Wright City their home. And I think that speaks well for this community, that the Daniel family considered this their home and wanted to rest here and then to provide educational opportunities for our students here. So thank you to the Daniel family.